Let's begin by telling you that the Revenue Mobilisation, Allocation and Fiscal Commission has expressed strong opposition to President Bola Tinubu's proposed tax reform bills, citing alleged constitutional breaches. In a detailed 9-page memorandum signed by its chairman, Mohammed Bello Shehu, RMAFC, outlined its legal, constitutional and technical objections to the bills currently under consideration by the National Assembly. The Commission argued that Section 162, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, grants it exclusive authority to determine the formula for equitable revenue sharing among the federal, state and local governments. This mandate, it emphasized, must reflect fairness and justice in line with its constitutional duties. RMAFC warned that bypassing its role as the sole arbiter in developing revenue allocation formulas risks undermining the Commission's integrity and compromising equitable revenue distribution across the 3 tiers of government. Meanwhile, the South-East Caucus in the Senate has joined calls for more extensive consultations on the tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly. Leader of the caucus and representative of Abia South, Senator Enyinaya Abaribe, announced this after a closed-door meeting with senators from the 5 southeastern states held in his office. Abaribe clarified that the caucus is not opposed to the proposed bills, but insists that broader discussions are essential before the legislation moves forward for full consideration and passage in both chambers of the National Assembly.
Of the South-East Caucus is that as much as we are not against the bill, that we would also have to do further consultations with our different constituencies and the state governments. And we think that the result of those consultations will lead to a better bill being passed and a much more equitable framework for finances in this country.
Now we tell you that Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum has presented the state's 2025 fiscal blueprints, proposing a total expenditure of over 584 billion naira. Tagged the budget of recovery and continuity, the proposal prioritizes rebuilding critical infrastructure, resettling internally displaced persons, and repatriation of refugees, as well as strengthening economic recovery efforts. News Central's Umar Karawa completes the reports.
Borno, a state in Nigeria's northeast, is fast recovering from the years of insurgency. Borno State Governor and members of the Executive Council, accompanied by the Chief Whip of the Nigerian Senate, among other stakeholders, arrived at the State Assembly. The State Governor unveiled the 2025 budget of recovery and continuity, a fiscal plan for the state.
Our administration has budgeted a total sum of 584 billion, 757 million, 725,000 for the 2025 fiscal year, as against about 360 billion naira that was budgeted last year.
The blueprint also includes initiatives aimed at boosting local industries and fostering private sector partnerships to enhance economic recovery.
In the year 2025 fiscal year, the state government will invest heavily in modern agriculture and resuscitate the Maiduguri dairy farm, establish dairy plants in northern and southern part of the state. Latest by January ending, government will inject additional 50 buses and then 100 electric cars.
Governor Zulum noted that 65% of the budget is earmarked for capital projects, while 35% will cover recurrent expenditure.
The year 2025, inshallah, Goza Dikwa will be electrified. Extension of electricity to Gajira, Mongona, and Baga will be facilitated. The Borno State Primary Healthcare Development Agency will revitalize 100 primary healthcare centers in the state and plan to construct 6 additional primary healthcare centers and upgrade 6 PHCs to comprehensive health centers.
The governor emphasized the government's commitment to to consolidating progress in security and stability, education, healthcare, and agriculture.
We shall be resilient in order to continue the program. Construction and rehabilitation of fire service stations in 27 local government areas, establish media situation room and media outfit, construct memorial site for insurgency, and support the security forces.
The House is concluding its duty reviewing this appropriation bill and accelerated passage.
The Assembly is expected to deliberate on the budget in the coming weeks to hasten the recovery process in Borno. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Now to politics. The Arawa Consultative Forum, former Vice President, and that's Atiku Abubakar and other stakeholders have criticized the presidency over claims that President Bola Tinubu will remain in office until 2031. The remarks made by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, have sparked controversy. Akume urged northern political leaders to defer their 2027 presidential ambitions, suggesting Tinubu should complete a second term before power shifts. The ACF, through its National Publicity Secretary, Professor Tukur Muhammad Baba, has stated it is too early to discuss the 2027 presidency, calling it a distraction from urgent governance issues. Atiku, citing a disparity in leadership tenure between the North and South, argued that by 2027, the South would have held power for 17 years compared to the North's 11. Now, the People's Democratic Party candidate in the November 16 Ondo State governorship election, Bola Ajayi, has filed a petition at the Ondo State Election Petitions Tribunal contesting the victory of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. Ajayi announced the move during a press briefing at the PDP Secretariat in Akure, the state capital, on Monday. Ajayi described the election outcome as a miscarriage and murder of democracy, highlighting his dissatisfaction with the process and results. While he refrained from disclosing the specific grounds of his petition, he expressed confidence in the tribunal delivering justice. The Independent National Electoral Commission declared Governor Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the election, with a total of 366,781 votes compared to Ajayi's 117,845 votes. Moving on now, former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has visited renowned legal luminary Afe Babalola SAN in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State, to discuss the plight of detained human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi. Obi pleaded with Babalola to reconsider his position after Babalola's petition led to Farotimi's arrest, sparking public criticism. On Monday, a court granted Farotimi bail set at 50 million naira and a surety in the same amount. Obi's visits included discussions with Babalola at his office within Afe Babalola University and a private meeting with Farotimi at the Ekiti prison, where he expressed solidarity and explored possible resolutions. The visits, shared by activist Moses Paul on social media, reflects Obi's ongoing efforts to mediate between the two lawyers. Well, we'll bring you more details of that during the course of the bulletin anyway. But in the meantime, a group in Ado-Ekiti has urged protesters to stay away from the state capital, condemning plans to use demonstrations to influence a matter already before the courts. Speaking to journalists, the Justice for Afe Babalola Legacy Group has criticized Dele Farotimi for allegedly attempting to tarnish the reputation and legacy of renowned legal icon Afe Babalola. The group emphasized its disapproval of any actions that could disrupt public peace or undermine the judicial process, calling for calm and respect for the rule of law. The appeal comes in the wake of rising tensions over the case, with the group urging all parties to allow the courts to determine the matter fairly and without interference. Well, as I said earlier, we will bring you details of this particular situation around Dele Farotimi and his arrest during the course of our bulletin. Of course, we have our correspondent who has been monitoring that particular situation, most especially in Ado-Ekiti, as that matter has escalated. Definitely, We'll bring you more on that. We'll go on a very short break right now. War on terror will be our next focus when we return. Army chief assures Nigerians of victory over Lakurawa. To stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has blamed corruption for the shortcomings in Nigeria's education and healthcare sectors. Speaking on Monday during the observance of International Anti-Corruption Day at the National Assembly Complex in Abuja, Abbas warned that corruption poses a significant obstacle to the nation's progress. International Anti-Corruption Day, observed annually on December 9, highlights global efforts to combat corruption following the adoption of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in 2003. Represented by the Deputy Chief Whip, George Ozodinobi, Abbas urged lawmakers to leverage their legislative oversight and representative functions to tackle corruption and serve the interests of Nigerians effectively. He stressed the importance of collective action to curb corruption, emphasizing its detrimental impact on critical sectors essential to national development. To discuss this, we are joined by a public affairs analyst, Kaj Ononuju. Kaj, thank you so much for joining us on the news. It's nice to have you around. Okay, I think we just lost communication with Kaj there. Definitely we're trying to bring him on to get his perspective on this matter around the corruption that has bedeviled the country, most especially as it affected the health and the education sector. And now we actually told you about the justice system as regards how Dele Farotimi was incarcerated based on an allegation of defamation leveled against him as instituted by Afe Babalola SAN. And as I told you earlier, we have our correspondent Niyi Balani who's standing by to give us updates as regards the court process. Niyi, good morning to you.
Thank you for having me, Leko.
Okay, so we understand that you are at the court in Ekiti State, where a hearing, I believe, will be taking place as regards the allegations leveled against Dele Farotimi. What's the update now?
Okay, so we're in front of Court 1. This is Court 1, Ekiti State Magistrate Court. Most of the legal representatives are already seated in there. We can go in for now, but of course we were there earlier on. The magistrate judge is not in yet, so people are just to moving around. We've seen one of the legal representatives for Mr. Dele Farotimi, Ralph Nwoke, who we spoke to earlier in Lagos. I heard his lead counsel is not yet in. I'm waiting to confirm that. But of course, we saw the lead counsel for the affair, Mr. Chief Afe Babalola, which is Owosheni Ajayi. He just arrived a few minutes ago. Rumors we're hearing is that the Dele Farotimi team is trying to transfer the case to a federal high court. We can't confirm that yet, but we think that is what might be in play here today. But so far, we've seen representatives or members, activists around claiming that he must be granted bail today. If not, they will decide to take to the street. We've seen a few of the activists. I was able to identify about two of the is it Take It Back? Yes, one of the Take It Back movement organizers during the End Bad Governance protest, and I was able to identify one of the Revolution Now activists as well here. So I think they just banged the tribunal. I thought I heard them usher in the judge, but I might be wrong. So for now, that's what we have. We're hearing there might be protests at the police command. We're trying to get information from there, but nothing has also happened there. I want to believe that what happens here in the next few minutes will determine if there will be a protest or not. But one thing they're pushing for that we can hear is that they want him to be granted bail. That's Mr. Dele Farotimi.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy, for that update. We'll keep tabs with you, most especially by the time the proceeding starts to get the details. Probably a court ruling will suffice at that particular time. It was nice talking to you. When I'll go back to the story as regards the issue around corruption and how the issues that has affected the health and the education sector seems to be the propelling factor for corruption that we see in Nigeria, as stated by Tajuddin Abbas, who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And to just properly bring this into perspective, I have a public affairs analyst right now, Kaj Ononuju, who will be sharing his thoughts with us. Thank you so much, Kaj, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so the lawmaker was actually pointing figures at the education and the health sector, not accusatorily anyway, but saying that the shortcomings in those two sectors are the things that have actually propelled the corruption situation, the high level of corruption situation that we've seen in Nigeria. What is your take on that?
That is totally not true. The high level of corruption in the country is a consequence of failed leadership. It has nothing to do with education. It is those in leadership that have undermined education and actually corrupted institutions, including institutions that are also responsible for running and managing education in Nigeria. The corruption is pervasive. It is representative of how the society is. It just shows you that the Nigerian society has failed, and we need a retool. And probably that retooling is why people say retool, because it is very unworldly to want to control everything from one center. That it's unworldly. So devolve powers, and people are calling it restructure. So if we devolve powers to units, include people, you don't just give one thing to one unit at the top or one person at the top, and the person would not be able to reach out everywhere, because he can't reach out everywhere. There is corruption everywhere because people are doing what they want everywhere because the man at the top cannot supervise them. So devolve the powers to the units in a way that it becomes more manageable. Just the same thing to governors and others. Devolve the powers to your aides, your commissioners. The people should learn, and that's what we're saying. There is over-concentration of power at the center in different parts of the governing establishment of Nigeria, be it federal and also be it in the states. And that's what we're thinking. There should be a devolution of these responsibilities and sharing of power with all other Nigerians who work, especially right now, under the country, under the same system. So, no. Don't blame the system for being bad when it is our inability to do our job that has made the system so uncared for, and that's why it's gone astray. So, no, it's not the system. You don't blame the chicken that died. You blame the owner that didn't feed it.
So, Kaj, you're actually, blaming the system for the reason why we see systemic failure overboard in the various sectors of the economy. But the National Assembly is coming out to say that there's a need for effective utilization of lawmaking, legislation, passing of legislation, oversight functions, and some other ways by which the legislative body can actually deal with the issue of corruption in the country. But then if the people are the reasons whereby we're seeing corruption skyrockets in terms of the incidences that we see in the country, how can we trust the lawmakers and the people themselves to deal with the issue of graft?
The lawmakers are a product of a corrupted system. So you're not going to actually allow and see them do much. Those are just noise. Devolve this powers. Over concentration of powers in our system in a unitary form at the center at different levels is the problem. Devolve these powers and then allow the agencies that are responsible for interrogations to do their work freely without over-interference from the unitary top. So if you have ICPC, you have EFCC, allow them to do their job very well. It's when they fail that you can reprimand them through either removal or change in their leadership and in the positions that are found to be wanting. That's what we should do. We're not devolving powers. And so if we devolve powers through restructuring, through devolutions, whatever, that's what we should do. We're not doing that. Our own system has failed us. It's wrong. to expect a different result when we keep doing the same old thing we've done since the soldiers failed.
So you're also saying, Catch, that the devolution of powers will also deal with issue around transparency and accountability that has been lacking in governance for a couple of years now.
Yes, yes. Look at, as you're talking about the anti-graft agency, you appoint them, but you do not give them power. You keep the power with the executive to go in there and damage things. It will not work well because there will be plenty of people that will learn and then target the executive as an instrument for undermining the processes of the anti-corruption agency. Devolve the powers and let them keep their powers. Then appoint an ombudsman to watch over them as it is normal in law. But since there are no consequences for bad actions, people continue to do the same. And that's why you see the system going bad. It's corrupt. It's not working. It has not worked for us.
Well, we've seen
when it doesn't work, you change it.
Yeah, I understand, but we've also seen, the EFCC and the ICPC also do their bit in tackling corruption. Do you think that they fared in terms of how they've gone about dealing with people, institutions, and apprehending culprits, those who've actually enmeshed themselves in corrupt practices, or there's a need for them to do more?
There is a need for them to do more. The FCC was not founded to hound everybody, no. It was founded to hound successfully a few in society as an example to deter others from also repeating such bad practices. That's what it is meant for. Take about, in a year, 4 or 6 high-profile cases, jail them, that will instill fear in the rest of the population, and then they will understand these things are not allowed. But if people commit things that are bad, and there are no consequences for such actions, what do you expect? What do you expect? I think it's a holistic institutional issue. As you said, institutional corruption. So it's not a game of passing responsibility from one person to the other. No, let us allow the powers to actually flow as it should be. Then implement the rule through an ombudsman, through even whistleblowers. Do more when people are seen. Don't allow people invited to courts mess up the court system. Don't also allow judges to be so brazenly, openly partisan in a way that their judgments become subjected to arguments, and some in society do not like them, even if they accept them. All right. The judges should be seen to be fair and transparent in their dealings. That's the way you instill confidence in society. Confidence is a material that's so important, but you don't see it as a structure anybody can own or hold. It's a neurological thing.
All right,
it's a mind share thing. It's psychological.
All right, Catch Ononoju, public affairs analyst, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now to security matters. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has assured Nigerians that the Lakurawa terror group will soon be eliminated, citing ongoing joint military operations with neighboring countries. Speaking to State House correspondents on Monday after a closed-door meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja, Oluyede emphasized the importance of regional collaboration in addressing the cross-border threat posed by the group. The Army Chief expressed confidence in the effectiveness of the coordinated efforts, reiterating the commitment of the Nigerian Armed Forces to restoring peace and stability in affected areas. In the meantime, the Nigerian Army and other counterparts of theirs from Chad, Niger, and other neighboring countries have begun joint patrols to counter cross-border threats posed by Lakurawa terrorist group. The collaborative effort aims to restrict the group's movement as it has been linked to serious criminal activities in northern Nigeria and surrounding regions. This comes as the Sokoto state government voiced frustration over the challenge of containing the group due to Nigeria's porous borders. The Lakurawa group, affiliated with Sahel-based terrorists, particularly from Mali and Niger Republic, emerged as a national security concern following its audacious first attack on November 4. Away from that, activists have called for a joint effort in ensuring fight against gender-based violence is not relegated until everyone does their bit for the safety of women. As part of activities marking the 2024 16 Days of Activism, attention is drawn towards causes and ways out of women living with the effects of violence of all sorts. Correspondent Chizo Banyowe shares more with us in this report.
According to research, globally, an estimated 736 million women have been subjected to physical and/or sexual intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or even both, at least once in their life. This accounts for 30% of women aged 15 and above. It is on this premise that the Nigerian Women of Journalists in Plateau State organized this one-day lecture to chart a way forward for women in the face of violence of various forms.
In handling gender issues, we should take note of confidentiality, respect, individualism, treat everybody the way the person is.
This annual event is a significant moment in our collective effort to amplify the voices of survivors, challenge harmful gender stereotypes, and advocate for a free society from violence and discrimination.
The fact that we have to wait for the end of the year, take up 16 days to talk about an issue that affects us is a problem. And I think we should start to address that problem as Norwegians, and the earlier we know that, the better for us to start to understand that the 16 days can be mere rhetorics if we don't address the real concerns.
This was also the tone of a sensitization campaign by the Jemilu's Aid and Relief Initiative in partnership with Like Minds Community Development Initiative to unite in order to end violence against women and girls.
We have set up some structures as regards those that have been involved in this violence, and then we have also seen where we can conduct therapies, PSS sections on these people, and then to reduce the trauma and then move on.
Even in this community where you discover through gender-based violence, a lot of people had lost their life, a lot of people are incapacitated and all that. So it's a very good awareness that if such kind of campaigns would be encouraged, I believe there will be a lot of change.
As this sensitization and activism continue, both women and men are urged to make daily efforts to ensure the safety of women and girls beyond just waiting for this annual event. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
Let's now talk about harnessing Nigeria's creative sector. Nigeria's federal government says that it is collaborating with the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization and the European Union to develop policies that will reposition the nation's creative sector for sustainable development. This was made known in the nation's capital, Abuja, by the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy while launching an initiative aimed at unlocking the huge potentials available in Nigeria's vibrant creative sector. Our correspondent, Edong Joseph, has more in this report.
Creation of the National Intellectual Property Policy and Strategy, the National Tourism Policy, and the review of the National Cultural Policy are considered key steps aimed at revolutionizing and projecting the nation's cultural sector, attracting investments, creating jobs, and promoting cultural exchange. With more policies set to be developed for the creative sector, UNESCO and the European Union have expressed their support to ensure that the policies are consistent with global standards.
It was under an application from the state of Nigeria through the ministry that they applied under a window which was made possible and available through UNESCO and thanks to the sponsorship of European Union.
We are doing this responding to the Mondial Declaration of Mexico City, which encouraged stakeholders to do this and enhance funding for cultural policies.
While commending Nigeria for considering culture as a key sector for development, UNESCO says that the initiative is in support of its objective, which seeks to promote the diversity of cultural expressions.
UNESCO, we are supporting the different countries, the member states, in implementing key conventions that cover the whole spectrum of culture, from the protection and preservation of natural and cultural heritage. This is the convention we call 1972.
Nigeria's Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy assured that the government is committed to creating the right framework to boost investment in the creative sector.
Let me assure you that the administration of His Excellency, President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, is focused on ensuring sustained partnerships for national development and is keen to create the right framework that encourages ease of doing business.
This initiative highlights Nigeria's determination to place its culture and creative sector at the forefront of economic and social development. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Ghana's President-elect John Dramani Mahama has pledged to form a government that reflects the aspirations of Ghanaians and work towards building a nation of their dreams. Addressing supporters and party loyalists in Accra after being declared the winner of the 2024 presidential election, Mahama expressed gratitude for the trust placed in him and vowed to deliver on his promises. The Electoral Commission announced that Mahama secured a decisive victory with 56% of the votes compared to Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia's 41%. The former president's victory marks a significant comeback, ending 8 years of rule by the New Patriotic Party under President Nana Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo's administration faced criticism over severe economic challenges, including an IMF bailout and a historic debt default. Mahama's return to power comes with high expectations for economic recovery and national development.
The journey is not going to be easy, my brothers and sisters, because the outgoing government has plunged our dear nation into an abyss. However, we are determined to work together with you to build the Ghana we want. I promise you that I will assemble and lead a government that will carry the weight of those hopes and dreams, whether you voted for me or not, because every victory is a victory for the people, all of the people.
The mayor of Dakar, Barthélemy Diaz, has vowed to resist any attempts by Senegal's new government to remove him from his position as leader of the nation's capital. Addressing journalists on Monday, Diaz responded to his recent dismissal as the Member of Parliament by the National Assembly, announcing plans to appeal the decision. However, he clarified that his appeal is not intended to secure his return to the Assembly, but to defend his political mandate as mayor. The controversy comes against the backdrop of Senegal's Supreme Court upholding a prison sentence against Diaz in August. He was convicted for the death of a man during political violence in 2011, a ruling that has added a layer of complexity to the ongoing political tensions in the country. Now, South Africa continues to grapple with alarming crime rates, placing it among the highest in the world. As this issue weighs heavily on the hearts and minds of many, communities are rallying together to demand change and safety. One brave individual from the neighborhoods of Ilbro, Yeoville, has taken it upon herself to reach out to President Cyril Ramaphosa in pursuit of a safer environment for her community. In an open letter, she articulates the fears and frustrations of residents living amidst a rising tide of violence and crime. Now, joining us as we delve into the matter, we're being joined by Tulile Gambushe. Thank you so much, Lily, for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're a South African residing in South Africa. Let's start by understanding the factors that actually fuel the crime rates that we've seen spike in South Africa and what your letter to the president seeks to achieve.
Well, crime rates in South Africa is bad, and it feels like it's growing every day instead of getting better, and the officials exercising their positions. It seems like there's corruption every day. So my letter to the president is straightforward. We need change.
So what sort of change is your letter clamoring for? I'd like you to itemize the details of that letter, the solutions that you're proffering.
Yeah, I mean, we know right now that he's trying to give Nigeria, or rather he has given Nigeria an entry, multiple entry. It's a problem because I live in Hillbrow. I grew up in Hillbrow. I'm surrounded by drugs. I'm surrounded by corruption. Even the officials, SAPs, can't exercise their duties within this area. It seems like the criminals or the corrupt ones actually have it easy in Hillbrow or in my surrounding neighborhood.
So what you're saying is that the crime rate in South Africa is perpetrated by non-South Africans?
Most cases, yes.
I'd like to have an understanding of that, because what the president did as regards the multiple visa is to boost economy and to boost the relationship that Nigeria has with South Africa, and to equally increase, traffic in terms of business between both countries, most especially this Yuletide season. So don't you think that is a plus for the country as against the fear of the crime rates that are spiked in the country?
No. What the president did was to boost his own business interest on our behalf as South Africans, without even engaging us or without even scaling the country's readiness to actually exercise all this or his business interest. So it's not going to help us with anything. At the moment, we are having a crisis with electricity. We are having a crisis with water. If he's opening such doors for other people to come inside the country and perform their businesses, how are they going to perform their businesses in such an embarrassment country? It's embarrassing. There's no electricity, there's no water.
Well, if those who are bringing their businesses are not too bothered about the challenges that the country is faced with, knowing fully well that the president is on top of the situation to deal with the issue around power crisis, don't you think that is actually nice? The problem might even be coming with solutions around power for the country.
I think it would have been nice if he had cleaned his country before allowing any other visitors to come and reside in South Africa, because we know it's just like tourists. Most of foreigners that came to South Africa, they came in as tourists and they've never left. They are now residents. They are now telling us our law and our constitution.
Okay, so before I let you go up to Lily, I'd like you to give me probably a few incidences or empirical evidence that justifies that non-South Africans, whether from Nigeria or from other countries, are the one that have actually perpetrated or spiked the cases of criminality that we're seeing in your country. Maybe just one or two instances, or maybe a fact that details that.
All right. I just wish you could actually come to Hillbrow for a walkabout one day and get to witness it yourself. Like in the letter, I grew up in Hillbrow, and having to be in Hillbrow, I've started witnessing drugs transactions in 2021. Me knowing that there's certain people that are taking illegal substance within my neighborhood, and now they do it freely. There's robberies that actually steal phones from people. They mark people and they go sell those phones to Nigerians that are actually always roaming around the streets of Hillbrow at night, waiting to buy those type of phones or waiting for customers to buy drugs from them. So it's a problem. What the government is doing, he does not even know Hillbrow himself. He has never even walked in Hillbrow himself. We are crumbling. We've got infrastructures that is crumbling. We've got buildings that are and neglected, that is actually causing it to hijack buildings.
Okay. Tulile Gambushe, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Outside of Africa, I will tell you that residents in Damascus have reported hearing loud explosions early on Tuesday following a series of Israeli strikes across Syria after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's government. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Israel has conducted around 250 strikes since Sunday, targeting key military sites, including airports, radars, weapons depots, and research centers. Near Latakia, strikes damaged naval ships and air defense facilities, while installations in and around Damascus were also hit. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has described the deployment of troops to the Golan Heights as a limited and temporary step for security reasons. The observatory claims that these strikes are targeted to destroy the military capabilities of Assad's former regime as Syria undergoes significant political shifts. In sports now, the Nigeria Boxing Federation has announced plans for early preparations ahead of the 2028 Olympics following their disappointing outing at the Paris 2024 Games. NBF interim president Azania Omagege revealed that the federation will revive the Nigerian Boxing League as part of its long-term strategy to develop the sport. Nigeria endured a disastrous boxing campaign in Paris where their last hope, Adam Olaore, crashed out in the round of 16 of the men's 92-kilogram heavyweight category. The situation was compounded by Cynthia Ogunshemilore's doping-related disqualification and Dolapo Mole's injury withdrawal. Former African cadet champion Wisdom Okolawo has expressed its readiness to take the world by storm as Nigeria hosts the 2024 Men's Junior Fencing World Cup in Lagos from the 14th to the 15th of December. All eyes will be on the 17-year-old as he leads the Nigerian team, which includes Shemilore Fashola, Olumuyiwa Ige, Bade Martins, Kibati Okwasoya, and the Idongiset siblings, Mahadi and Mahatir. Top fencing nations from around the world, including the United States, Hong Kong, Egypt, and others, will join Nigeria at the tournament. Other countries confirmed for the two-day championship include Ghana, Senegal, Greece, Angola, Togo, Benin Republic, and Saudi Arabia. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, look at our top stories again. Revenue Mobilisation, Allocation and Fiscal Commission rejects tax reform proposal, cites constitutional breaches. Peter Obi moves to mediate in Dele Farotimi's defamation trial, visits Afe Babalola in Ekiti. President-elect John Mahama assures Ghanaians he will deliver on his electoral promises. Well, don't forget to watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.